and welcome to CJC Adventures. Today we're in Tipton, in the heart of the West Midlands and the Black Country, known for industry and of course making things that would normally go abroad, be used here. But today we're discussing one particular person, a man who was a fighter, a prize fighter, which was also classed as boxing in the 1800s, by the name of William Perry, known locally and of course all around Great Britain, and maybe today known as the Tipton Slasher. He was born on the 21st of March 1819. His career began in 1835, and back then times were hard, more than hard. Literally you would fight round after round until one person said, "Enough, I've had enough, you've won," and then they'd shake hands and off they'd go. Back then, of course, times were much harder. There was less roads, especially in the Tipton area. In the Tipton area roads were pretty scarce, they're not anymore. There's mainly hills, dirt tracks, etc. And they would fight and fight, and that would be their living. Now, the Tipton Slasher's record as a fighter seems quite small, but compared to those days and how many rounds they had to fight each time, it wasn't. He had 11 fights, 6 wins, 3 losses and 2 draws. And yes, he claimed the championship on the 17th of December 1850. He beat Tom Paddock, would you believe, after 27 rounds. Wow. Now, the Tipton Slasher was known mainly fighting local, but of course he did go to London quite a few times to fight, because that was where the action was. But he did fight here in the Black Country. He fought in Albury, and when he fought in Albury, it had to be broken up halfway through the fight by the police, and then the next day they finished the fight off, and that was the Tom Paddock fight. It was still worth it after 27 rounds. Could you believe that? It's unbelievable, it really is. But still well known here in Tipton as the Tipton Slasher, and a legend of his day, and still a legend now. Now, this is known as Owen Street. This is Owen Street Bridge, and this is the canal, known locally all around the Midlands and not only Tipton as the Cut. Just over the bridge is a pub called the Fountain Inn. Now, the Fountain Inn, very old pub, and that's what we're going to have a look at. Now, the Fountain Inn was originally a 3-storey pub. These days, and it has been for many decades now, a 2-storey pub. It is still a thriving pub. In these days, because of COVID, it's not open at the moment, but it soon will be. And it was the headquarters upstairs to the Tipton Slasher. When he was arranging his fights and doing a bit of training, he would come here. His father ran the pub, and later in life the Tipton Slasher also, when he finished fighting, ran the pub himself. Now, this part of the pub, the Fountain Inn, did house, many years ago, these were actually the stables in which the Tipton Slasher would spar and train and get ready for the next fight, and he really was the Rocky of his day. Proper modern fighting for the times, but if you'd done that today you probably would get hurt unless you were really built for the sport itself. Now, all along here this is just a grass verge and a car park at the back, but this was actually the stable in which the Tipton Slasher trained, and there's the upstairs in which he kept his headquarters. I mean, back in the day, you know, you look round and you look at Tipton the way it is now. There's still a lot of waste ground and stuff, but back in those days, of course, it was classed as probably, a nice area of it today. Still still classic. But still classic looking. But if you look at the upstairs, there has been ghosts seen here. So if you go in the Fountain Pub, then that's what you're faced with. I mean, of course, don't be put off by any ghosts. I mean, there's only been a few sightings here over the years. One is of prize fighting look, and apparently it's not the Tipton Slasher, because the ghost that they've seen is a person with a moustache, and the Tipton Slasher didn't have a moustache, so it was ruled out that it wasn't him. So maybe one of his opponents, who knows. Back in 1993, a beautiful bronze statue was erected here on the Coronation Gardens here in Tipton of the Tipton Slasher. It had the famous V stance that he was always known for, and a wonderful likeness. If you look in the history books, there are plenty of photographs of the Tipton Slasher of his fighting days. Some still come and go, some still stay as they are, but yeah, it's a nice statue. I remember when this was erected and unveiled, it was rammed here at the Coronation Gardens. But a very nice likeness of him. And in 1880, on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, the Tipton Slasher passed away of alcoholism. We have now come just over 2 miles to Kate's Hill, Dudley, and to St John's War Memorial Church. Now this is a very old church. It has been saved from demolition a few times. Not open at the moment, but it is the site and the grave site of the Tipton Slasher. Now the Tipton Slasher was born in Tipton. He last lived in Bilston, just up the road, and he's buried here in Kate's Hill, Dudley, at this churchyard. So we're going to go and pay our respects to William Perry, the Tipton Slasher. It is a very old graveyard, of course. It's been here for many, many centuries, and of course a lot of graves have been in disrepair for quite some time. There's quite a lot of graves here, and I doubt very much if they do, when somebody passes away, that they actually bury him here anymore. I might be wrong, but it's got a fantastic view all over the Black Country, as you can see there in the distance. It's a beautiful view. Right on the hill, this cemetery. Lots and lots of graves here, more than you'd expect for a normal graveyard in any church. Normally there's not many graves in churchyards, especially around the Midlands area, but of course, you know, I say I might be wrong. People still might be laid to rest here. I'm not quite sure. Now the gravesite to the Tipton Slasher is just there in the middle. Now it was into disrepair, but the vicar, who was the vicar at the time, actually said, no, we need to do this up, it's coming in disrepair. So he done it up, and it's still like it is now. So it is actually the second grave of the Tipton Slasher who was laid to rest. So let's, without further ado, we'll go and have a look at the grave of William Perry. And this is the gravesite, the last resting place to one of Tipton's most historic figures. Now if you ever come to this cemetery, it's in St John's Road, just further north of the town. You come through the gates, walk down this path. As you walk down the path, take your right, and there is the grave of William Perry, the Tipton Slasher. Now a lot of people back in those days actually went on to sort of enjoy this church more than it's enjoyed today, but of course sadly, you know, it's a shame that it's not open. But what I've heard, they are going to actually open it as a church. They've got some funding, so you know, it'd be nice, because if you're looking at, you know, a grave as famous as the Tipton Slasher, obviously that grave can't be moved. It has to be stayed where it is and everything else, and there's legal matters and stuff, so it's nice that it's gonna stay as it is, which is always a nice thing to do. But yeah, people of Dudley are good people. Yeah. Walking through here is not many people about, but of course it's been an old cemetery. Probably not a lot of loved ones left now to tend the graves of their loved ones, but of course they're here if they need them. Now the Tipton Slasher did have a wife. He basically, you know, he was one for, you know, not only boxing, you know, as they called it back then, but you know, he did have a personal life as well. He was married to Anne Maria Challingworth, and they was married on the 11th of June 1851 at St Mary's Church, Pitstone. And the couple did have one child with William Edward Perry, born on the 3rd of December 1854. So that was the time when he was basically doing his thing, the boxing of the day, the bare knuckle fighting, prize fighting. So, you know, he certainly did have a private life as well. And, you know, of course, well known. I imagine he had good friends as well, close friends, but I'm sure he wasn't someone to mess with, of course, and I doubt very much unless you got into a boxing ring, as they called it, in a field somewhere, that was the only time you would face someone like William Perry, the Tipton Slasher. So now, after all these years, you wouldn't really expect there to be many remnants of William Perry and basically where he lived, and there isn't. I mean, there is a street in West Bromwich where he lived for a while before basically he moved to Bilston. He died in Bilston, you know. Not much remnants. I mean, his life began in Tipton and then West Bromwich, Bilston, and you know, and you look back and you think, was there remnants of his life somewhere? But the street, you know, or streets where he lived, it would be unrecognisable to the day and to the naked eye. And of course, time does that. If you go back to where this is, the Coronation Gardens, where the statue of William Perry is, it's probably, it'd look like this back in those days. There'd be a canal here, but over the years trees have grown, roads have been built, and it's unrecognisable, which is understandable. It doesn't spoil the age. Times have to move on, times have to look different, but you know, the one place that is still here, the Fountain Inn, which is nice that it's still preserved, still looks pretty much the same. A lot has changed around it, of course, but it's nice that it's still here, and it's a good and lasting tribute to true Tipton legend. So, you know, if you look at, you know, the likeness, you know, of William Perry, it's good that he's still remembered. Thank you for watching CJC Adventures on this journey through the life of a bare knuckle legend, the Tipton Slasher. If you want to see more, please subscribe. It's free. Click on the bell. You'll be notified when the next video is uploaded. And if you like this particular video, please give me a thumbs up, like. It means a lot. We'll see you again soon on CJC Adventures.